Here's my Man of Steel review. This review is a more in-depth review. It's going to be longer and may have spoilers. I'll try not to go too much into the plot, but this review here is for people who want to hear another opinion on the movie and going to further discussion somewhat of the movie. If you're looking for a quick, great review, there are a ton of them out there. You can flick the pick, I believe, or pick the flick or something like that. That channel, Jeremy Johns, a bunch of great reviews out there. You can watch their video. This video will be long. It will be time consuming. So if you have something better to do, I would suggest you go do it. Here I have in front of me is a small bit of my movie collection. I have about 400 and change over there somewhere, and 30 of my other comic book movies in a different spot. And what I'm talking about today is Man of Steel. Was it a good movie? Yes. Was it a great movie? Arguably, yes. Was it the movie I was expecting? Maybe not. A lot of good points and a lot of bad points. And to me, a lot of a lot of what made this movie good is somewhat of what made it at times bad. It was not horribly bad, but just almost taking you out of the moment in a way. For example, in the first Batman movies, the trilogy, right? I don't have the third movie. I didn't like it as much as the first two. Let me go over here to my other bit of movies. Now, in the first two Batman movies directed by Christopher Nolan, you had fans know that you had a lot of quotes, like epic quotes and one-liners, and that's Nolan style. And if you watch this movie, it's filled with one-liners. I mean, at first there were some moments where oh man, I'm not remembering names. Russell Crowe, Russell Crowe, and Clark's dad, Jonathan Kent. They would say things, and you're like, oh my gosh, goosebumps! Wow, that was amazing. And then throughout the movie, though, it just one-liners and quotes, and I'm like, really? It's almost like I was watching a comic book full of amazing quotes that, because there's so many, they take away from each other. So they're not as epic once you hear them over and over again. For example, Jonathan Kent saying, "I am your dad," and Clark Kal-El saying, "My parents told me that if they were to ever find out who I was, they'd reject me," and stuff like that. So there's a good and a bad aspect with that. And another good and bad thing was, for me, the flashbacks. The first, I don't know, I wouldn't know the time, the space of time, but the first part of the movie, the flashbacks were awesome. I mean, I love that they started with Clark, and then they went to the boy, and they started explaining how he just doesn't come here and he's Superman. He's going through almost like a similar to like a puberty in a way. He's learning to use the X-ray vision, and it's hurting him. It hurts to hear so many things at once, and he has to learn how to concentrate that. I really love that. I love the flashbacks. But then towards the middle and the end of the movie, the flashbacks were somewhat unnecessary and intrusive into the storyline to me, sometimes imposing unnecessarily. There's a part where Superman is sitting on a bench, and he goes into a dream. The audience needs to learn something. It needs to be explained, a little situation. So he gets into this almost dream where Zod is telling him what's going on, and telling Clark the situation. And I thought, well, why didn't he just tell him on the table? Why did it have to go into this somewhat dream? It didn't make sense, but whatever. And as I said, that I think it was only to set up a epic looking scene. Maybe that was Zack Snyder's decision. He loves everything epic. I have another movie by him, Legends of Gaul, which is somewhere in my big collection, and I don't feel like looking for it right now. But yeah, there were some moments where I thought this was just done for looks, nothing else. You know, um, as I said, it's a great movie. The special effects were good, and there were some times where I wasn't too sure about it. There was one part where Clark's or Superman's head was a little bit unproportioned to his body, and I thought, really, you know, really. So, yeah, the action was intense. The maybe a little bit too intense for me. I mean, I love action movies. Uh, I thought the Avengers movie was just filled with action, nonstop, but it didn't get repetitive. It wasn't too much. At times, the Superman, it was just a bunch of crashing into stuff and hitting and flying away and crashing again. Um, so there's a good and aspect, bad and aspect, good and bad aspect to that. I was gonna talk about something and it slipped my mind here. The action. Oh, yeah, the realism. I love that Man of Steel is grounded in reality. That brought a great new take into the Man of Steel movie. The reason is because I thought this movie beforehand. I thought this movie was gonna stray so far from the timeline and the story of the Man of Steel of all the Superman comics and cartoons, and it actually it sticks closer than one would think. The difference here is that they give meat to the Krypton story, to the Kryptonians. They give a lot more meat. They flesh it out and they explain why and how Superman gets his powers. Um, in the cartoons and the comics, Superman's weakness is kryptonite. Kryptonite doesn't exist in this universe, and I'm kind of glad it does. And at the same time, I'm glad. I wish it it didn't. Why is because his weakness here is actually the or his strength. Let's start off by saying that his strength is actually the atmosphere of the Earth, and in a combination with the Earth's yellow sun. So if you strip that away, right, Superman is human. So to ground this in reality, they had to explain that the atmosphere is the reason why he is able to fly. He can manipulate the Earth's atmosphere because the atmosphere on Kryptonite was so strong and so powerful that this atmosphere is just it's really really easy to manipulate. Right? So meaning it's a great way to explain how he has all these powers, but at the same time, to me, it doesn't make him Superman. He seems a bit weak in this movie. For example, there's a scene where he's getting hit with how do you call it? With bullets from an airplane. Yes, granted that these are like slugs, more like regular rounds in a pistol or something like that. But he was flinching and it was hurting him, and I didn't like that. Superman is a somewhat invincible from the comics and stuff, somewhat invincible and weak to kryptonite and of course his devotion to doing good. Those are his weaknesses. So here it's like he's weak to everything because of that grounded in reality thing. They didn't want, it's like they were trying not to make him too powerful because of the whole atmosphere thing. How could one humanistic alien come to this planet and become hard as steel or almost invincible? So I think they toned down the power of Clark, of Superman, of Kal-El for this reason. So there was good and there was bad. I didn't like it. I do like how characters are fleshed out. Everything happens for a reason, as a purpose. Where in the old cartoons, Zod was looking for Superman. I guess just to kill him. I don't know. But in this, spoiler alert, Zod he's a soldier. He was bred that way, and his sole purpose is for the good of Kryptonite. Whether he has to do bad or good, that's his purpose. Krypton. That's his purpose. Whether to do bad or good, his sole purpose is for the greater good of Krypton. So if he has to kill, if he has to destroy, it's all about Krypton. So he has a reason in this movie, and I love that. All right, I love that reason. What else did I want to talk about? Talked about how Superman isn't as strong. Oh, the dynamics, the the visual effects, more to the visual style. In the Avengers and they're over here somewhere, and in the Iron Man movies, you really got a sense that this guy here, Robert Downey, actually built this machine and he's flying around in it. Whereas in Man of Steel, I thought the flying could have been better. Yeah, I hate to be a critique here or nitpick on everything, but there were just times when I thought, man, this is being done on a green screen. This is some CGI thing where we all know that of course it's not real and it's all CGI, but in the Iron Man movie, especially the first one, I really believed that this man was in a suit flying around. You know, Tony Stark never really looked like an insect, whereas in the Man of Steel, he sometimes just looked like a bug, a red and blue CGI bug flying around on the screen. And I was worried about that beforehand going into the movie, that the CGI would look a little bit weird, and it did at times, but there are other times where it looked great, marvelous, spot on, especially when Superman is fighting Zod. That scene was epic. I mean, just epic. It was great. The CGI looked great. Everything. Let's talk about the action. The action for me was a little too much. There was one point where I go, okay, oh man, that's a lot. And in the Avengers, we all know it's a long movie. I never once asked myself, when is this movie gonna end? You know, I was just enjoying every minute of it. But in the Man of Steel, I kind of did. I was just like, when is this movie gonna end? After the whole part where, spoiler alert, Clark or Superman destroys the alien ship, the Earth engine, you know, that was trying to do the whole gravity thing. After he destroys that, I'm like, all right, cool. You know, it's over, and then it's like, no, the fight scene with Zod. I think they could have left that whole Earth engine, a lot of the Earth engine bits alone, and just focus on the fight with Zod, and that would have been more epic. Oh, about I forgot to mention this about the whole not feeling like Superman was Superman. Superman spent 33 years on this planet, so it took him 33 years almost to hone his skills and hone his crafts. Now, these Kryptonians come here from this black hole that they were abolished in, and they come and they find Clark, they find Kal-El, and within a day they're more powerful than him. And I didn't like that, you know. They were whooping his ass half of the movie. It was just ridiculous. There were things that the girl, I don't know her name, she was whooping ass, man. And I wish Kal-El could have been doing the things that she was doing. You know, the whole super speed, flying to one person to another, throwing things, and then this big guy, this big robot, whatever that thing was, just kicking his ass the whole time. And I'm like, so they get their powers from this atmosphere, and all of a sudden they're just whooping Kal-El's ass. They should have had to have combined their efforts to try to destroy Kal-El. But no, one-on-one, they were whooping his ass only after a day of being in this atmosphere. So I thought that was kind of ridiculous, and he's flinching from bullets, and he's getting his ass beat. And if it wasn't for the humans, you know, Zod would have won. He did get a lot of help from the humans in the end, and what's her name, Lois Lane, which I thought was great as Lois Lane. Now, let me close up here. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying don't watch a movie. I'm not saying it wasn't a great movie. I'm saying it was a good movie, but it just wasn't what I expected. There were times and things that kind of took me out of the moment just a little bit. You know, the actors were great. Henry Cavill is just a great Superman. Russell Crowe, they all did a good job. Amy Adams as Lois Lane, beautiful. They all did a great job. So yeah, it's a good movie. It just wasn't what I expected. But what I will say to close this off is that I thought that this was a great origin story. Not many origin stories do a great job. Well, except for this one, of course. But not many do a great job. And I thought this was a really, really, really great origin story. It sets up perfect for part two. There was a lot of action. I love the action. I will buy this DVD when it comes out. It sets up well for a part two, even a Justice League movie. It really does. Um, and I would think that the Christopher Nolan Batman, the Christian Bale Batman, can fit into this Man of Steel universe. The only thing is that in part three they kill off Batman, and I'm talking about at the beginning of the movie. They Christopher Nolan waited 8 years, and I think this is one of the reasons I didn't like The Dark Knight Rises as much as the first two movies. But he kills off Batman within the beginning of the movie, saying, "Oh, he's old, he can't do much more. It's his time to end. He has to throw in the cape, blah blah blah." If he didn't do that and just made a regular part three where Batman's young, healthy, he fights Bane and he closes it off that way and not as the end of his universe, I think they could have brought Christian Bale back. This universe would fit in well. In Man of Steel universe, aliens don't exist until Clark is discovered about. So it would work. I think beforehand I didn't think it would. I thought they would have to reboot Batman, and they still could reboot Batman, but I think Batman would have to be grittier and have more of a supernatural element to him than the Christian Bale Batman. Um, you know what I mean? Not so much supernatural, but he would have to be he'd have to be a Batman that could take on four guys at once and seven guys at once and 10 guys at once and super intelligent and super rich and et cetera, et cetera. Um, so yeah, a great movie. I really think it does well to set up for a part two, and I think a part two would be so much more epic because now you have Clark. Now we've established Superman. He's a monster. I hope they make him stronger in the second one and not so uh how do I say, such like a pansy, like a wuss. He wasn't that emotionally or personality wise. He wasn't an emotional wuss or anything. He was just like physically. He wasn't as strong as I would have liked to see. So I would give Superman Man of Steel at 8.5 out of 10. Great movie. Go watch it. Could have been much better. Should have been much better. Sets up well for a part two. That would be a 10 out of 10 movie. So yeah, go watch it. Have fun. Leave comments down below. Tell me where you agree. Tell me where you disagree. And thanks for watching.